The work and procedures shown and described in this videotape are intended for people having a fundamental understanding and familiarity with the subject presented in this program. Every possible circumstance that might involve potential hazard could not have been anticipated in the production of this program. The warnings and safety suggestions in this videotape are not inclusive of every situation. You must satisfy yourself that the operations and procedures you use in your situation are safe for you and people around you. Before operating any equipment, review the machine owner manual and become totally familiar with the controls and safety procedures for that particular machine. The makers of this videotape disclaim any liability for injury or damage arising out of attempts to perform the work or procedures shown and described in this videotape. If other materials are used, such as fuels, lubricants, cleaners, or chemicals, precautions for handling should be obtained from container labeling. This program is not a substitute for the owner or operator manual supplied with the machine. Remember, as always, consult your supervisor if you have any questions when operating equipment. Images shown in this video are only intended to portray typical safety-related situations. They are not necessarily OSHA compliant.
For most superintendents, an OSHA inspection with the risk of heavy fines and penalties is something to fear. While routine inspections are rare, they are almost mandatory if an employee has an accident that results in a serious injury or death or a high accident rate. There are many OSHA regulations as well as other federal, state, and local regulations and ordinances designed to ensure safety and protect the environment. Just keeping up can be a challenge, but this video is designed to help. We'll give you some information that will help you and your employees stay in compliance and help you to be prepared in case of an inspection. The first part, intended for your staff, familiarizes your employees with OSHA, employee rights, and responsibilities, some of the most common violations, and how they can help prevent them. The second part, intended for you and your assistants, will give you some information to prepare you for a random OSHA inspection procedures, and your rights and responsibilities as an employer following an OSHA inspection.
As a golf course employee, you work in a number of potentially dangerous situations. You probably operate power mowing equipment, maybe power machines or tools. You might handle hazardous chemicals, work with electricity, a welding torch, or simply climb a ladder from time to time. These are common tasks performed every day by thousands of workers without injury. But without proper knowledge and training, the risk of accident and a subsequent OSHA inspection will increase. This first section can help you learn more about OSHA, specifically some of the regulations and standards that are designed to keep your facility safe. You'll also learn what you can do to help keep your golf course safe and in compliance with OSHA standards and regulations. OSHA stands for the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Created in 1970 by the federal government, its goals are to encourage employers and employees to reduce workplace hazards and implement new or improve safety health programs, provide research in occupational safety and health, maintain a reporting and record-keeping system to monitor job-related injuries and illnesses, establish training programs for occupational safety and health personnel, develop mandatory job safety and health standards and enforce them effectively, establish separate but dependent responsibilities and rights for both employers and employees, and develop, analyze, evaluate, and approve state-level occupational safety and health programs. The Occupational Safety and Health Act, which created OSHA, covers all employers and employees in the 50 states, Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, and other territories. Either the Federal Occupational Safety and Health Administration or an OSHA-approved state program monitors the standards. Under the Act, both employers and employees have rights and responsibilities. As an employee, you have the right to seek safety and health on the job without fear of reprisal or punishment. You also have the right to review OSHA standards and rules, request information and training from your employer, observe any monitoring or measuring of toxic substances, request an OSHA investigation of hazardous conditions, and have your identity kept confidential. But these rights come with responsibilities. Specifically, you must comply with OSHA standards. You must follow your employer's safety and health rules by wearing or using assigned protective clothing and equipment on the job. You must report any hazardous condition and any job-related injury or an illness to your employer and get treatment promptly. You must cooperate with any OSHA officer conducting an inspection. Exercise your rights under the Act in a responsible manner, and take time to read the OSHA Job Safety and Health Inspection poster on the wall at your workplace. Breaking any OSHA regulation or safety rule could mean disciplinary action or even dismissal. The best way to help make your facility safe and OSHA compliant is to work along with your employer to reduce accidents and improve health and safety. Let's identify some frequently cited OSHA violations to determine some specific things you can do to make your job and workplace safe and OSHA compliant. One of the most frequently cited violations is inadequate hazard communication. As an employee, you can help make sure all hazardous chemicals that you come into contact with are properly labeled. If you haven't already, ask your supervisor to review the current Material Safety Data Sheets, or MSDS. The sheets will tell you which hazardous chemicals are used at your course and which ones you come into contact with while working. Then, talk to your supervisor and make sure you understand the possible health effects from misuse or mishandling of these chemicals. Another common violation cited is failure to wear OSHA-required personal protective equipment, or PPE, such as safety glasses, gloves, earplugs, hard hats, face shields, safety shoes, and other items. Be sure you know about and wear the personal protective equipment required by OSHA and your supervisor for the job you are doing. Wear earplugs or protective earmuffs when you're working in a high-noise environment. Wear safety glasses when mowing, using a grinder, or doing any job where loose material can fly into your eyes. Use a proper respirator, gloves, and other prescribed clothing when working with hazardous chemicals. And wear work gloves when handling sharp mower blades or working around a hot engine or muffler. Of course, these are just examples, and your supervisor will have a complete list of required articles of personal protective equipment. Another common violation is missing guards or shields on machines like grinders, saws, or lathes. You can help reduce accidents by checking and, if necessary, replacing protective guards and shields on power machines. Before mowing, operating a tractor, or other machine, check and replace guards and shields covering PTO shafts, belts, and pulleys, and other moving parts. Get training before using power tools or machines. Never use a piece of equipment that is missing a guard or shield, and report lost guards or shields to your supervisor. Another common violation is inadequately placed and marked fire extinguishers or inaccessible fire extinguishers. OSHA requires all buildings to have fire extinguishers. Since most courses use multi-purpose extinguishers, Class ABC extinguishers and Class BC extinguishers must be within 50 feet of any point within a building. Each extinguisher must be marked properly according to OSHA standards. And OSHA requires extinguisher training if you are part of a fire brigade assigned to fight early-stage small fires. Of course, to fight large fires, OSHA requires training that is more extensive. Tell your supervisor or take it upon yourself to make sure the fire extinguishers at your facility are hung in the proper locations, properly marked, and access to them is always clear, never obstructed. Improperly marked or blocked exit doors is another commonly cited violation. To help reduce accidents, never put anything in front of doorways that will block passage and remove any obstructions you may see. If you work with chemicals, make sure that access to the emergency eye wash is always clear. A designated employee or safety person should check the eye wash monthly and record the inspection in a log. There are often violations relating to operating heavy equipment like mowers or tractor loader backhoes. There are many safety do's and don'ts when it comes to operating heavy equipment. Here are some of them. When operating, wear protective clothing. Operate at safe speeds. Turn off the engine when leaving the machine unattended. Set the brake when parking. Make sure protective guards and deflectors are in place. And keep your hands or feet away from quick-moving blades on reel or rotary mowers and pinch points. Use caution if you operate heavy equipment. Be sure to get training on proper operation. To get more information, read the manufacturer's operation and safety manual, watch the operator training videotapes, and always follow your supervisor's instructions. Violations involving misuse of compressed air are also common. Never use compressed air to clean yourself off or spray compressed air toward another person. This could cause injury from extremely high air pressure or flying debris. Before using compressed air to clean equipment, reduce the discharge pressure to 30 psi. Another common violation is improper lockout-tagout. If you service or repair shop machines or other equipment with dedicated electric power, you must learn how to use proper lockout-tagout procedures to avoid electrocution, inadvertent startup, or injury from release of hydraulic, pneumatic, or other stored energy. You can help remedy other potential electrical hazards like worn, frayed power cords, overloaded cords or outlets, cords running under rugs, or water spills near electrical sources. Finally, help maintain good housekeeping by keeping walkways clear of water, oil, or debris to reduce the chance of falls. There are many other ways you can stay safe and help keep the workplace safe for others. Learn proper safety procedures, exercise caution when working, and look out for potential hazards that should be reported or remedied. This ends Part 1. Thank you for watching. Part 2 of this program will help you, as a superintendent, keep your facility safe and prepare you for an OSHA inspection. Preparation is the key. Keeping your course safe and up to OSHA standards means educating yourself and employees on the standards and teaching employees safe procedures and work habits. One way to stay prepared is to make walkthrough inspections of your facility. Walkthroughs help you find and correct potential problems that inspectors could discover during a visit. There are also outside companies that will conduct an independent safety audit to help you comply with the law. Auditors will evaluate your facility and safety records and then present you with a detailed report suggesting corrective changes. However, if an employee has an accident resulting in serious injury or death, or you have a number of reoccurring accidents, OSHA will pay you a visit. For that reason, you should be prepared and know how to maintain control of the inspection. Here are some suggestions. When the inspector arrives, treat him or her with respect, but ask to see their credentials. Do not overreact. Write down the inspector's name and address, and anyone else's name and address that is present. You may need them for later reference. Although OSHA is not required to give prior notice, they could arrive on a bad day. If so, you may ask them to provide a warrant. Some companies do this to let OSHA know they are going to pay close attention to the inspection. However, be aware that asking for a warrant may cause OSHA to return in force and conduct a detailed inspection. If a warrant is presented, read it carefully. It will state time limits and ground rules for the inspection. Be cooperative. Answer questions clearly and to the best of your knowledge. Never give vague answers. If you do not know an answer, say so and offer to follow up later. Ask about the purpose of the inspection. If it is due to an employee complaint, OSHA must limit their activities to the specific area in question. Read the employee complaint carefully so you understand the boundaries and avoid unintentionally expanding the inspection. Accompany the inspector so you can be ready with answers and maintain control. If possible, avoid taking the inspector through unrelated areas as you walk to the area specified in the complaint. Take notes detailing what the inspector does, areas inspected, equipment checked, employees questioned, and any pertinent comments made by the inspector. OSHA gives credit for items corrected before the inspection is completed. If it's easy to fix, have it corrected and show the inspector before they leave. Take pictures or get samples of everything the inspector does. If an accident is due to employee misconduct, be ready to identify and explain the circumstances. Detail any circumstances that may have contributed to the accident. You are not required to admit a violation. A voluntary admission gives proof to a violation, and you may not have complete information. Neither are you obligated to perform any job or equipment demonstrations. Paperwork requirements are very important. OSHA often cites employers for not having written programs or for keeping improper records. Safety programs do no good unless you can document employee training. Here's a hint. Written or functional tests are a good way to document that your employees understand their training and can apply the knowledge. Also, here's another hint. If your records are complete and well organized, it's likely that the rest of your inspection will go well. If records are shabby, the inspector may dig deeper during the remainder of the inspection. Never falsify records. The inspector will talk to employees during the inspection. Consider designating and training a person to be the OSHA contact. During the inspection, this person should be the main contact with the inspector. You should also consider preparing a uniform procedure for dealing with random inspections. Designate responsibilities and train your employees to carry them out. During a random inspection, the inspector will want to review your written safety plans, including your OSHA 200 log, your record of work-related injury and illness needing medical attention. Remember that you have to keep the log 5 years and post it every February. Inspectors will also review written plans for hazard communication, lockout-tagout, bloodborne pathogen, confined space entry, personal protective equipment, chemical spills, hearing conservation, respirator use, and your evacuation plan. Probably the best way to comply with the written plan requirements is to develop an overall safety manual that compiles all of the information into one document. You can do this yourself, or there are kits available to help you create a manual. A well-thought-out safety manual helps you create a safe and healthy workplace, comply with laws, and shows good faith, which could reduce penalties for OSHA violations. It's a good idea to do a job analysis for every job to identify safety risks. This also gives you a formal method of determining PPE requirements for each job. Here's a hint regarding review of safety plans. If there are hazardous materials stored on site, the inspector will likely ask an employee to quickly locate an MSDS document. Material Safety Data Sheets, or MSDS, supplement the container label, giving detailed information on the type of chemical or mixture, conditions that can increase the hazard, who makes or sells the product, how to safely handle the substance, needed protection, why it's hazardous, how you can be exposed, what to do if exposed, what to do if there are spills or emergencies involving the substance. MSDS documents are part of your written hazard communication plan. As we said, during the site inspection, either you or an appointed safety coordinator should accompany the inspector around the site. Be sure to take careful notes, pictures, and ask pertinent questions. In the employee area, the inspector will make sure you have a readable OSHA job safety and health inspection poster, emergency telephone numbers which you should post near the telephone, an evacuation map showing employees how to evacuate the premises during an emergency, and a fully stocked first aid kit. The inspector will also want to inspect your chemical storage area to make sure that you store and dispose of chemicals correctly. Only trained employees should handle pesticides and other chemicals. They should know the required personal protective equipment and wear it when mixing and applying chemicals and when cleaning and rinsing equipment. Your storage area should be a dry, well-ventilated room or building that's separated from the rest of your facility. Make sure there are fire extinguishers available, and if practical, fence the area off and keep the doors and gates locked to prevent unauthorized entry. Hang proper identification signs on doors, buildings, and fences to let people know that the contents are hazardous. Provide a wash basin and a shower with a delayed closing pull chain valve for decontamination of people and equipment. Store pesticides off the floor in the original containers. Make sure the labels are intact and store the containers upright. Store pesticides in common groups with identification signs to notify employees. Check the containers regularly for leaks or corrosion. Keep an inventory of your pesticides, making sure to indicate the number of containers, their contents, and the amount of chemical. Place the NFPA 704 sign outside the building or room so firefighters and emergency response teams know that the area contains hazardous chemicals that are combustible or flammable. Since pesticide rinsate is hazardous waste, your cleanup area should be paved and include gutters and drains to contain the runoff. You can reuse the runoff as a diluent the next time you spray the same pesticide. The OSHA inspector will also check your equipment storage and repair area. Here's a hint. As we said, laws do not require you to demonstrate any piece of equipment or procedure during the inspection. The inspector will want to see that the shop area is neat and clean with no blocked aisles or cluttered corners. There should be adequate lighting in all rooms. Ventilation equipment should be working properly. All stairways must have proper handrails. And you must have an adequate number of eye wash stations. Be sure you can document that they have been regularly inspected for proper operation. Label all of your liquid and solid containers correctly and make sure they are not leaking. Be sure your chemical spill containment equipment and material is conveniently available in case of emergencies. And make sure your fire extinguisher inspection and service maintenance are up to date. To protect from electric shock, all outlets near sinks should be GFI-type receptacles. There must be free access to all electrical panels. And do not substitute extension cords for permanent wiring. Be sure there are no extension cords attached to any structure, running through a window, door, or hole in the wall. All building emergency exits must be clear and properly marked with lighted signs. The signs should have a battery backup to stay illuminated if the power goes out. Identify any confined spaces, meaning 1. A space that is large enough and configured so an employee can bodily enter and perform assigned work. 2. A space that has limited or restricted means of entry or exit like tanks, vessels, silos, hoppers, vaults, or pits. And 3. A space not designed for continuous employee occupancy. Equipment, including ladders and portable power tools, must be in good working order. Tools should not have frayed or damaged power cords. All power tools and machinery should have safety guards in place. And electric-powered tools and machinery must be properly grounded. Store equipment and tools securely so there's no chance of these items falling on someone. All storage areas should be rated for load capacity and properly marked to indicate maximum load. Your employees must be wearing the required personal protective equipment for the job they are doing, and stored personal protective equipment must be clean and in good repair. You must store loose acetylene and oxygen welding tanks a minimum of 20 feet from each other, or separate the tanks with a non-combustible barrier that is at least 5 feet tall and has a fire resistance rating of at least 1/2 hour. Regularly inspect welding cables to make sure they are in good repair. On power equipment like mowers, make sure all guards, shields, and protective covers are in place and secure. And any unit that has a rollover protection system or ROPS should also have a seat belt. As an employer, you have certain general responsibilities regarding OSHA. You must keep the workplace safe, provide training, report accidents, keep accurate and current records, use warning signs and posters, provide employees access to medical and exposure records, and provide medical examinations as required by OSHA, to name just some. You also have rights and responsibilities following an OSHA inspection. If you've been cited for a violation, you must post the citation or a copy near where the violation occurred. You must post it for 3 days or until the violation is corrected, whichever takes the longest amount of time. After receiving a citation, you have 2 options. If you agree, you should correct the condition by the required date and pay the penalty. If you do not agree, you can contest in writing within 15 working days. Before deciding your plan of action, you can request an informal conference to discuss the issues with the area director for OSHA. If you are unable to abate the problem in time, you can petition for a modification of abatement with the OSHA area director to give yourself time. If you can prove that your present facility or practice is as safe and healthy as the OSHA standard, you can apply for a permanent variance. Employees can also contest abatement dates if they believe that they are unreasonable. If an employee contests an OSHA decision, it does not affect your obligation to abate the violation. OSHA will do a follow-up inspection to verify you have posted the citation, corrected the violation, and/or protected employees, and made progress at correcting hazards. And finally, as an employer, you are obligated to provide OSHA with accurate and truthful information, and you cannot discriminate against an employee for making a safety or health complaint to OSHA. For more information on your rights and responsibilities regarding OSHA, contact your OSHA area office, the U.S. Department of Labor, or your State Department of Labor.
We hope you've learned more about OSHA, its procedures, the rights of your employees, and your rights as an employer. As they say, safety is no accident. The best approach is to make a comprehensive safety plan and then train your employees on the proper procedures and the importance of safety in general. Always treat OSHA and their representatives with respect. Their job is to make sure that your workplace is safe and healthy for you and your employees. Cooperation goes a long way toward solving any problem. Thank you for watching, and be safe.